Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast, and today I have something very exciting to show you. All 4 of the brand new 2021 Challenger decks. This is the first place they're being shown anywhere, and today I'm going to crack them open and show you exactly what's inside. Let's do it. First of all, if you don't know what a Challenger deck is, they're a 60-card deck and a 15-card sideboard that are modeled after top standard decks, and they're perfect to pick up and play right out of the box. For this release, there are 4 different ones. Now you might be looking at these decks over here and saying, those don't look like Challenger decks. Well, I'm happy to announce that this is a brand new kind of packaging we're using for Challenger decks, and it's pretty awesome. This is a new kind of packaging we're calling near plastic free, and that's because almost everything you see here is recyclable. There's a very tiny amount of plastic inside that the cards are wrapped in, but otherwise totally good to go. It even has the marks on the side to prove it. It's in a smaller, new compact form factor, which is pretty cool, and I'm really stoked about this new direction for our products. And this will hopefully be the first of many products that use a much more eco-friendly design. And as you will see when we open it up, it still holds the cards really well, and it can still be a deck box. And actually, I prefer the smaller, new compact form factor to the larger boxes of years past. All right, so you've all waited long enough. I'm sure you're curious, what are the 4 decks this time around? Well, we've got Mono Green Stompy, play some creatures, attack them, mutate on a Gem Raiser, all that good stuff. We have Azorius Control, counter some spells, draw some cards, kill off your opponent's board, and then kill him with a Dream Trawler or Shark Typhoon token. We have Mono Red Aggro, always a fun classic archetype. Attack your opponents, and if they kill off your stuff, maybe Annex will make you some tokens, and you can burn them out to finish the game. And finally, we have Dimir Rogues, the newcomer on the block. It's been a blast since Zendikar Rising came out. You can mill your opponent a little bit and kill him with your evasive threats. These decks will be coming out on March 26th. Now, if you just want the deck lists, I'll put them in the description down below. But if you want to see what cracking one of these open is like, let's open up the Mono Green Stompy one and see exactly what it looks like. Hey everybody, Mono Green Stompy Challenger deck with the brand new packaging. Pretty cool stuff. Let's take a look at exactly what you can expect here. There's the little recycling notes right there that I mentioned earlier. So on the back, of course, you've got a little bit of talk about the deck and what you'll find inside. I will note, and we'll see this soon too, this comes with some DFC helper cards, which is really nice for all the DFCs in the deck. And then also on the side here, we've got a QR code, and if you scan this, you can see what the full deck list is. So even if you change the deck later on, if you keep the deck box around, you can always easily go and find out what the original deck list was, which is pretty cool. Or if you've sideboarded and want to return its configuration, it's a great way to find that out as well. So now we're going to crack this open. Now the way these open is by a little pull tear strip on the top here. There's actually something fun that happens. Check out this fun thing that happens. You ready for it? Become the beast. Each of them has a fun little phrase on the top. I love it. It's a little surprise and delight moment. I had a lot of fun cracking the other ones open and seeing what they were. I'm only going to do an unboxing for this green one because once you unbox one Challenger deck, you kind of get how it looks. It's going to be the deck list of whatever that deck is. But just to give you a little sneak preview here, the red one is a classic. Red deck wins. Makes a lot of sense. The black one is fun, or the Rogues one, excuse me, is fun. Sneaky, sneaky. And then my personal favorite is the Azorius Control one. You didn't say please, which was a delightful thing to crack open and read right there when you pulled off the tab. Although Become the Beast is pretty nice too. All right, so we're gonna fold these down and open it up, and you'll see there's this little deck box inside. Perfect. And this outer carton, totally recyclable if you just want to throw this out, or once again, keep this for the deck list. I just got this deck box ready to go right in here. Looks like this. And then when you open this up, you've got a little divider for you, which is pretty cool. You've got a little paper divider as well, just make sure these two things don't knock into each other at all. And then you've got the deck and the sideboard. They're packaged separately, like so. And this is, like I said, the plastic that is used. This is the only plastic that is used in here. So otherwise, totally plastic free, but this is the one place where we kind of needed to wrap the cards up this way. And for future products, we're looking at ways to curb that so we can make them totally plastic free. That would be awesome. But for these ones right here, we are still using these. So we'll see what the future might hold. I'm pretty hopeful. So let's crack this open and see exactly what we'll get inside. We'll start with the main deck, of course. Starting with the sideboard would be a strange journey. So let's see what we got going on right here. Mono green, if you are familiar with the standard archetype, right? Mono green's been quite popular. A lot of smashing happening there. And let's take a look at what we got. So we're going to start off with Turn Timber Symbiosis, the modal double face card. We've got 2 copies of Turn Timber State Symbiosis. I'm going to clear some of this trash out of the way too. Don't need you staring at that. We're gonna need room for all these sweet cards we're gonna lay out. Turntimber Symbiosis hanging out up here. We've got, count them, 3 copies of Kazandu Mammoth. And if you don't know what that does, I guess I should show you both sides. So here's Kazandu Mammoth right there, 3/3 with landfall. On the back, a land you can play. These new modal double face cards are great for really smoothing your deck out. And here's that Turntimber Symbiosis, in case you missed it. And on the back, this doesn't always come into play tapped. You can pay 3 life to make it come into play untapped, which is kind of nice. We've got Garruk Unleashed right here, the M21 Garruk. Stone Coil Serpent. This card is especially awesome when you mutate onto it because, of course, it keeps all the counters, and whatever the new mutated stats are great. So it's a fun little synergy there. Got 2 copies of this. We've got 3 copies of this Swarm Shambler. Good with the +1/+1 counter stuff you have going on with the Stone Coil Serpent. Speaking of +1/+1 counters, we have 2 copies of Scavenging Ooze. Really, really nice reprint there. We've got 2 Wildborn Preservers. Flash, Reach, and it gets bigger whenever you play non-humans, which is really great. Pile all your mana in there. And then a well-known card for this deck, Yorvo. He is legendary, so just 2 copies, but triple green, slam him down, turn 3, have a 4/4 that gets bigger. Pretty awesome. We have 4 copies of Love-Struck Beast. I'm in love. 1 mana, make a 1/1 white human. Then you pay a 3 mana 5/5. Pretty good, I'd say. And there's other 1/1s you can get here too. Swarm Shambler starts as a 1/1, for example. So even if the token it makes dies, well, no problem. We've got 2 copies of Gem Razor, one of the Ikoria Mutate cards. Once again, great on the Stone Coil Serpent. We have 3 copies of Primal Might. Rar. Make something bigger and have it fight something. Keep in mind, you can always just play this for 1 mana as a Prey Upon, which is pretty cool. Have something fight each other. We've got number 4s 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I could have said after each one, but I resisted. A lot of force. We've got Wildwood Tracker. It's a good little beater here. 4 copies of those. Basically a 1 mana 2/2 a lot of the time in this deck. We've got Surf Fair and the Henge Hammer. Also quite good for beating. 2 copies of those. Thrashing Brontodon deals with problematic artifacts or enchantments. And also 3 mana 3/4 in its own right is great. We've got 4 copies, count them, 4, of Ram Through. Great, not only fight spell to kill off your opponent's creatures, but works really well with anything that you have that tramples. So the Stone Coil Serpent, for example, can suddenly just kill your opponent right off if they're not careful. It's easy to deal some lethal damage with this. And then Snakeskin Veil. 2 copies of Snakeskin Veil to round it out. Great way to protect your creatures, give them hexproof. They play a removal spell, you cast this in response. Good stuff all the way around. Okay, so that's the main deck we've got going on right here. And now we are running out of room on screen, so I'm going to remove these cards, put them all in a stack. Let's take a look at that sideboard. All right, going to open this up. And we have Calm the Ambush to start off, another one of the modal double face cards. Tap land on the other side. We've got 2 copies of Calm the Ambush. We've got Chainweb Arachneer, little escaping creature from Theros Beyond Death, good at dealing with flyers in particular. 3 copies of those. We've got Return to Nature, very multi-purpose card, exile stuff from graveyards. Blows up artifacts and enchantments in case there's an escape card you want to deal with or something. Got more Snakeskin Veils against those pesky removal spells. We've got 1 Thrashing Brontodon to round out your set. Oakhame Adversary, which is, of course, quite nice against any other mono-green opponent. This is a key card to have. That card draw every turn is going to be big. And round a Run Afoul to blow up your opponent's creatures with flying for just a single mana. And then we've got a whole array of tokens right here. They're double-sided tokens, just like you might find in a commander deck. So Insect Human, it's probably Insect Humans for these 3. Got an Insect Beast for this guy, and then a Beast Human over there. Little Beauty and the Beast action on this token. And then 6, count them, 6 of these double face card helper cards. So that is exactly what you'll find here in the mono green challenger deck. Pretty cool stuff, and I will now go over the next deck. let's talk about the Azorius control deck. I'm not going to do a full unboxing, just going to show you the deck list. All right, blue-white control, one of my favorite archetypes, a total classic. And we're going to kick it off here with Amiria's Call, a great finisher. Got that land on the back when you need it. And a way to finish them off right here. 1 copy of that, 2 copies of Skyclave Cleric. Gain you some life, be some stopgap early. Be a land when you need it a lot of the time, though. 2 copies of Dreamcrawler to finish them off. This card, yeah, this is quite a powerhouse card right here. Great finisher. Archon of Sun's Grace, right here. 2 of those. 2 Shatter the Sky, and a Doomscar for your Wrath Suite. Every blue-white control deck always needs some sweepers. That's doing good work to just clear up the board, make sure that your opponent's creatures aren't a problem. We got 1 Shark Typhoon. You can cycle that, make a big creature, or just cast it if you need to. 3 copies of Elspeth Conquers Death. Fantastic saga. 4 Temple of Enlightenments right here, so that's a nice rare dual land for your deck. We've got 3, 6, 8 plains, 3, 6, 8 islands, 4 copies of Tranquil Cove, little dual land here to give you some life if you need it. We'll put all the lands over here in a stack, just because I don't need to lay all those out. We've got Neutralize in 3 triplicate, counter some spells and cycling. Saw It Coming, the brand new Foretell counterspell from Kaldheim. We've got 1 Negate. We've got 3 Thirst for Meanings. We've got 2 copies of the brand new Behold the Multiverse. We've got 4 copies, count them 4, Birth of Meletus. Nice saga, triggers your Archons of Sun's Grace, discard it to Thirst for Meaning. 4 copies of Omen of the Sea, another enchantment that once again synergizes with Archon and Thirst for Meaning. Banishing Light, removal spell, and yeah, you get the idea of how it works with these. And Glass Casket for a little bit of extra removal to deal with. I always like playing blue-white control decks. The game will go long. You get to make a lot of cool decisions. You get to carefully counter some spells, decide when you want to blow up the board, and finish on with some really cool big creatures. Now I'm going to lay out the sideboard here, and let's just snap my fingers. All right, very well, magic. And here's what you can expect in the sideboard. We've got 2 copies of Skyclave Apparition, which is a super exciting card to have here. We've got 3 copies of Confounding Conundrum. We've got another Archon of Sun's Grace to give you that 3rd one for matchups where you need it. We've got Mystical Dispute for the blue decks. 1 mana counterspell, or make them pay 3 at least. Pretty good against blue. 2 copies of Essence Scatter. And 2 more Glass Caskets. And 2 more Banishing Lights. Once again, removal for when you're playing against the beatdown decks. Or these are also good against other any kind of Planeswalker, heavy deck, or thing like that. You just need to deal with their problematic permanents. And then for the tokens, we've got some Pegasus right here. We've got a shark on the back of one. The shark Pegasus is kind of funny. Illusion and a wall hanging out here for Birth of Meletus. We've got some Angel Warriors, of course, for Amiria's Call, and some more Sharkies. And then 6 of the Modal Double-Faced Helper cards. Mono Red Aggro. Let's do it. To kick it off, we have 2 copies of Shatter Skull Smashing. A great way to kill off a bunch of creatures late, at 2 at the same time, or early. It's usually good at killing off 1 creature if you need to. Backside, of course, is a land, so it's super flexible if you need to just play it as a land drop too, if it's in your hand. We have 4 copies of Spike Field Hazard. Deals 1 damage on the front side, or is a land on the backside. Just really helps smooth out your draws. Make sure you can hit your land drops. If you believe in the cleave, here's a card for you. Embercleave is here. 1 copy to finish off your opponents with. And a card that is traditionally quite nice with Embercleave. Fervent Champion. 4 copies of Javier Dominguez's championship card right here. We have 4 copies of Kargan Intimidator, which has one of my favorite lines of rules text. Cowards can't block warriors. Delightful. Great 2-drop there. We've got 2 copies here of Castle Embereth, which is really nice. Plus a bunch of mountains. That's 3, 6, 8, 10, 13, 16 mountains. So 18 lands in total, plus these 6 modal double-face cards over here. So you'll have plenty of opportunities to hit your land drops. We have 4, count them, 4 copies of Bonecrusher Giant. So buy one of these, and you'll have a full play set of Bonecrusher Giants, which is a staple across the board. Great to have it in standard right now. Also great for other formats too. Speaking of other formats, we've got Thorbrand, Thane of Red Fell, in triplicate. We've got 4 of these cute little puppers coming on down turn 1, attacking for 2 every turn as long as you keep playing lands, which your modal double face cards will hopefully let you do. Rimrock Knight, little 2-drop that comes down, 4 copies of this, and also 1 mana combat trick. We have Annex, 4 copies there. Make sure that when your creatures die, you get tokens back for it, and can grow to be quite large too. And then to burn out our opponents, we've got 4 copies of Shock and 4 copies of Royal Eruption. So if they saw at the board, they're hanging it out a few points of life, this is a great way to finish them out. Especially, you can always kick up this Royal Eruption in the super late game to deal 5 damage right to their face. All right, so that is the mono-red main deck. Now let's take a look at the sideboard. All right, we're going to kick it off with a Relic Robber. Great card against control decks, for example. It can deal a bunch of damage to them over time. We got 2 copies of Relic Robber here, a design that I just love if we're going to talk about design here for a moment. But we're not, because we're moving on to Roiling Vortex. Make sure your opponents can't gain life to get out of your burn range. 2 copies of that. Sorry, Graveyards, bad news. Soul Guide Lantern is here. 2 copies of Soul Guide Lantern. Shuts off all those escape shenanigans. We've got Red Cap Melee. 4 copies right here, a single mana for 4 damage, and in the mono-red mirror match, you don't have to sack that land, which is really nice too. But also, even in a non-mono-red match, like killing off their Yorvo or something from the mono-green deck can be huge and is well worth sacrificing a land for. So, Red Cap Melee. It's good for dealing with those big creatures that can cause you trouble. And speaking of those big creatures that can cause you trouble, as the green deck often does, Thundering Rebuke is hanging out. 3 copies of that. And then Soul Seer, which can also nab Planeswalkers, by the way. So this is some long-range kill for Planeswalkers. Same deal with the Thundering Rebuke or the Red Cap Melee. So lots of ways to nab Planeswalkers. We've got some Satyrs here for the Annex. Lots of Satyrs. And then on the back side, we've got some Goblin Constructs. So choose your favorite side. I want this one in play. I don't want this one in play. I'll tell you that much. And then we've got 6 modal double-faced helper cards right here, like the other decks. All right, it's time for the new kid on the block here with some rogues. So let's kick it off with Black Bloom Rogue. We got 2 of these. Creature on the front, land on the back side. You'll see a lot of these in the deck, so they're just so good at smoothing out your draws. Really just helps you make sure that you can hit all your land drops, which is super nice. Malakir Rebirth as well, 1 copy of that. 1 mana trick that brings your thing back. And there's a land when you need a land. We've got Rankle, the Master of Pranks. Awesome in Standard, and I know a lot of folks have taken this in Commander too, but we're not talking about that today. Sweet card from Eldraine to have here. Thieves Guild Enforcer, of course. This is a crucial card for the Rogues deck. Gets bigger, mills your opponent out. A very important M21 pickup. 4 copies of those in here from Rogues. Vantress Gargoyle, a 2 mana 5/4. Once it is online, you've milled your opponent for enough cards. And plus gets your mill synergies rolling a little bit. 3 copies of that. Nighthawk Scavenger, a key new rogue. Running 3 copies of Nighthawk Scavenger in here. Perfect. We have Zareth Sand, the Trickster. One of my favorite things to do is like bring back my opponent's Ugin or something like that. You will feel very happy about this. But you're not always going to get to do that. Anything is great. I live in ninjutsu, so this kind of rogue jitsu style thing, a blast. 3 copies of Zareth Sand. We've got 4 Temple of Deceits for your mana fixing here. And then plenty of basics. We've got 3, 6, 7, 8 islands. And 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 swamps. And 4 Dismal Backwaters for a bit more mana fixing. Merfolk Wind Robber. 4 of these. Great 1-drop for this deck. Cycles away if you need it late game, but also gets your mill engine rolling earlier to turn on cards that are huge for you, like the Soaring Thoughts Thief. 2 mana, 1/3 that makes all your rogues bigger. It's a really key card for the rogue deck. Mills them super fast, so yeah, you definitely want to draw as many of these as you can. It's a key card. And speaking of cards that you're really happy to draw, Drown in the Loch is an awesome removal spell / counter spell that is great for a tempo kind of deck like this. So of course there's 4 copies. We've got Bloodchief's Thirst for removal spell, 2 copies there. 2 copies of Eliminate, and then 2 copies of Heartless Act to round out your removal suite. So that is the main deck here of what you can expect in this Rogues deck. And now let's take a look at the sideboard. We're going to kick it off with 2 copies of Negate, great for countering all manners of troubling non-creature spells, helps you deal with a counter spell if you need to, or stops a board sweeper from like the Azorius deck. Really nice. Into the Story is a card I often like to sideboard in against control decks or mid-range decks if the game is going to go really long, because the Rogue deck can run out of gas, and allowing you to just draw 4 cards in the late game is a really huge deal. Pestilent Haze will help deal with huge swarms of creatures. For example, if that mono red deck has a bunch of tokens running around off Annex, this will finish it off. Great way to stop those creature swarms. 2 copies there. We've got Cling to Dust in triplicate. A way to deal with stuff in your opponent's graveyard, yes, although make sure not to take yourself off of your 8-card rogue bonus. But also, just an extra draw engine late game, right? If you need to, you can use this over and over again to draw some extra cards. Agonizing Remorse, always great against control decks for getting their key card out of their hand, and it nabs their graveyard too if you need to. And speaking of getting cards out of your opponent's hand, we have 3 copies of Duress, which is good for that. And then 1 Bloodchief's Thirst to supplement what is already in the deck, another removal spell for those aggressive decks out there. And then for tokens, we've got some Fairy Rogues, 5 Fairy Rogues hanging out right here. And on the back, we've got some Goblin Rogues. So if you like Fairy Rogues and Goblin Rogues, well, this is a great place for you to hang out in. And then we've got 6 of these modal double-faced cards. So that's what's happening here in the Rogues deck. And that's all 4 decks. And now I'm curious. Of the 4 decks we have here, Dimir Rogues, Mono Red Aggro, Azorius Control, and Mono Green Stompy, do you have a favorite among them? Which one would you buy? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll talk with you again on Monday. But in the meantime, may you have a lot of fun playing Standard. You got this. The year is 1998, and Urza Saga is about to come out. The beginning of perhaps the most broken block in all of Magic's history. Now, Mark Rosewater designed this block as an enchantment-based block, and some of those cards actually still made it through. But, as most of you know, Urza's block ended up being known for its very powerful broken artifacts.